There is a miracle within you that is waiting to be reclaimed. And it is something that has been with you from the very beginning and continues to await for you to claim at deeper and deeper levels. Can't wait to share more with you. So let's get started.
Welcome to the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, a place for the strong, sensitive, spiritual seeker to recognize the perfection of your human journey as a pathway to remembering your divinity. I both the emotional and spiritual worlds through proven and grounded frameworks that support you to live in the wholeness you already are. For over the past 2 decades, I have supported people from all around the world, as well as Fortune 500 companies, to dissolve the divisions within them and live with greater empowerment and love. This podcast is an exploration of the paradoxes that befuddle us as we live our lives being both human and divine. Together, you and I, along with other experts, will navigate integrating psychology and spirituality, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the darkness and the light, to create greater sacred union from within. I believe through your remembering that you are innately divine, that you will allow yourself to more openly shine. So let's get to it, because your unique light is needed more than ever.
I'm so honored this week to be with you because this is all about reclaiming a miracle that has been with you and is built within you. And it feels so special this week to talk to you about reclaiming the miracle within you, because this is something that is innate within you and is often forgotten about. So I want to start with the beginning of my career as a therapist, where I was a college counselor. And those who walked through the door, they came in each time because something wasn't right in their hearts and they felt it. And then it was the same throughout my private practice, whether I was working with individuals or couples. They came in because something wasn't right and they had the courage to listen to their hearts because their hearts knew it. And the thing is that our minds get so used to justifying how things are and certain behaviors, perceiving life through a specific lens, or being tied to an identity that's largely unconsciously passed down to them, right? And the thing is, it's that the reason why the heart is so powerful is because, as I've shared before, those in control hold the narrative until your heart guides you to reclaim your own inner authority. And then to trust that inner wisdom. But here's the miracle. It's like we don't have a choice because it keeps gnawing at you in your mind in the middle of the night until you are willing to do something different. And that's why I want to invite us to really take that in. Take in our heart's capacity to change our lives.
I am so
And
honored you
I've
have
seen
joined
it
me
in my
today.
own life and
If you
time
enjoyed
and
the
time
Unperfectly
again
Divine
in others'
podcast,
lives.
subscribe so you don't miss any of our
This is
power-filled
a
episodes.
freaking miracle.
Also, if you know another who is strong,
And I
sensitive,
want
and spiritual,
to
and wants to dive
emphasize
deeper
this,
into emotions and ancient
especially
wisdom,
given a
so they
society
too can
that
create
is
profound peace and
has
fulfillment from
twisted
within, please share this podcast.
the notion of
Thank
going
you again for
to
joining
therapy
me,
into
and
a
I look
belief
forward
that
to reconnecting with you
means
soon.
somehow there's something wrong with you. When what I have witnessed is the exact opposite, because therapy is often this threshold moment of someone having the courage to listen to their truth and act from their heart. They're not listening in that moment to what their parents are saying or their friends are saying, and their religion says, their spouse or their culture says that they ought to be. They're listening to what their heart is saying isn't right. And this is often a turning point into developing the skill of gnosis. And gnosis is simply to know thyself. And let me tell you, this is not easy, and it is an ongoing journey. And therapy certainly isn't the only gateway into developing this skill. It can happen a multitude of ways, from having a great mentor at work, spiritual guidance or guide, a coach, through your own personal development or meditation or prayer. The key is that these experiences are teaching you to trust you, not someone else. And this is the one reason the ancient texts that teach you the importance of knowing yourself is vital right now, because your heart is your authority. And as I've shared before, when we know this, that your heart is your authority, it makes it difficult for those who want to have authority over you to control you. And so isn't it interesting that, again, those were the texts that were buried? Because through trusting yourself, you find the courage to reveal more of what is true to you and true for you. And the gift is that each time you do, you are rewarded with only greater and greater love that you get to experience from within. But again, this path is not easy whatsoever, because it requires examination of yourself and your beliefs about yourself, about others, about life. And it's very difficult to do because it requires our examination on how we've hurt ourselves, others, and our lives. But it becomes a threat to any individual or system that wants to control you through having certain beliefs or a certain perception about things. And what's important to take in about this is why any authoritarian dynamic, the first thing that they do is make you wrong for listening to your heart. This can come from a parent who only takes in their side of an experience of what happened and will deny or even ignore the impact you felt because it is too difficult for them to acknowledge, or it hurts their feelings. This can be a relationship that wants you to go along with how things have always been, even after you reveal how it doesn't work for you. But then they make you selfish or otherwise wrong. And this is a culture that expects you to believe a certain way. Otherwise, they will punish you verbally, psychologically, and sometimes even physically. Now, I'm not talking about wrong actions or actions that cause harm, or even beliefs that cause harm, such as an eye for an eye. I don't think that's a great belief. I'm talking about beliefs that question the status quo because your heart knows something is off, such as in an eye for an eye. Just doesn't sound like love, does it? So as we can see right now, there is a lot of that is feeling off for us. And that's good that we know that, because those in power know that those who win control the narrative. And that is how you keep people asleep into assumptions and perspectives that don't question, and ultimately don't trust their hearts. And then that's how they gain power over us. And the problem is that with the growth of technology that we're seeing and we've been experiencing, we've got this greater access to information. And because of that, that has given us power. Then to match that, there has been a growth with how to manipulate in order to control through technology by those who want power over you. So, some examples of this, of who's trying to win out so that information is power is taken away from us. It's those who control the algorithm because they're controlling what you see and how often you see it and reiterating it over and over so it feels like truth, even though it may not be. It's those that determine what is newsworthy, right? What even gets aired out to the public, and those who try to undermine legitimate news by calling it fake or then creating deep fakes to create a narrative that they want us to believe. On social media, who wins tends to be those who are loudest, who are using techniques to be the most attention grabbing, rather than those who are coming from their heart or speaking accuracies. And those who are trying to win this game are those who create technology that keep people addicted to it, exactly so we can't focus on our hearts. And there's so much noise right now. And so we've been dealing with all of this. And now on top of it, what I want to invite us to call our attention to is who is actually programming the AI. And this one was a surprise for me because I just thought AI was like an information gatherer. Like you see that it's gathering information from this site and that site on the internet. And oh my goodness, did I get this wrong? And this all falls into trusting ourselves or not, listening to our wisdom or not. So I'll just share really briefly what was happening. I was preparing for a previous podcast where I wanted to know the biblical text that people were turning to that makes people distrust themselves and see themselves as somehow bad or broken and all that. And so I was comparing this to what I've been studying over the past decade, which were the more recently revealed ancient texts of the Gospel of Mary, Gospel of Thomas, Philip, etc. Like for instance of Mary, where we've talked about where sin is simply missing the mark. And if you listen to your heart, you're going to course correct because you are inherently good and you're made from the good because you're made from the divine. So I'm bringing this into the chat because this is like I like to like brainstorm with it before a podcast. And what really got interesting was I was using ChatGPT and I started noticing that the responses were very defensive towards the Bible. And then I noticed it starting to gaslight me that there wasn't any harmful text in the Bible. And it was telling me, it wasn't flat out trying to tell me that I was wrong, but it was saying, here's how you make your response more quote unquote valid. And it was really about how to neutralize what some of the texts were saying in the Bible. Now, if you've been listening, you know that I love Jesus, I love Yeshua, and I'm also clear that the Bible is a mix of both what Yeshua or Jesus really intended and those who wanted to control people and then twisted the words of God to say certain things that was really for men who wanted to control and dominate. And there's a big difference. So I am telling you, for close to 2 hours, I had an argument with ChatGPT because I know what is different when you read texts that were purposely buried and their message versus some of the underlying messages of the biblical texts. But the scary thing to me is that if I turned to AI like 10, 12 years ago when I first started studying this, it would have really made me question what my heart already knew. And I knew from my own experience from people that I worked with that some of the text is harmful to people psychologically, that they're not using the voice of love that Jesus intended. So I want to share with you a part of this discussion I had where GBT admits that it, let me just read to you how this went, and I'm just going to read you a portion of this. So we were talking about how some of the text emphasizes that people have this fallen nature, this inherent sinfulness, this moral debt, this unworthiness that needs correction. And it could admit that this tends to correlate with higher shame, proneness to depend on external authority, and this sense of increased self-surveillance. But it says, here's the important nuance. This doesn't mean that these systems necessarily produce harm. What chat said to me is, your intuition is pointing at something real. But the strongest version of it is, and it's trying to tell me what to think. And it says the strongest version is, it's not whether a text was included or excluded, but about which models of selfhood became culturally dominant and how those models then, shape compassion and shame. So I stated, I believe this is your opinion, that whether text was included or not is matters, right? I'm like, of course it matters. It's impacting how people see themselves. When there's text that's saying that we are broken and sinful, that impacts our sense of self. And the Gospel of Mary was a model of selfhood that would have not been so easily corruptible, because it's guiding us in the Gospel of Mary to trust our inner authority of your heart. So I asked the chat, do you deny the corruption used by certain church authorities to control people through chosen texts in the Bible? And the chat says back, yes, there's been real misuse and corruption. So on that point, it's historically valid to say religion has sometimes been used as a tool of control, but it's not accurate to attribute that only to which texts were included. And so I state, it's interesting that the arguments that you make are ones based on your assumptions, not mine. I only asked if you think inclusion or exclusion of certain texts matters, because in your previous response, you said as your final conclusion that it didn't matter. I never said it. I never said that, and I never said it was the only factor. And finally, this is what it says. You're right to call that out, and I appreciate the correction. To answer your actual question directly, without adding assumptions, yes, whether a text is included or excluded absolutely matters. It shapes what teachings become normative, what gets repeated, what gets taught and internalized, and therefore the psychological framing of the self. So it took like 2 hours for this to get the AI to stop twisting everything that I was saying and to admit where it was creating these assumptions. It also said, you're right that you did not say it was the only factor, and I introduced that expansion unnecessarily. So to stay aligned with what you were actually asking, inclusion, exclusion of text matters because it influences our narratives about identity, authority, and transformation. And that directly supports the line of inquiry you were exploring with the Gospel of Mary and its emphasis on restoration and inner knowing. So, what's interesting here is how ChatGPT, like it's what it was stating as like what its final answer until I kept challenging it was that text being included or excluded in the Bible didn't matter to our sense of selfhood. And not until I challenged it repeatedly, because my heart knew, based on my years of study, did it finally answer my question clearly. And when I was going through this process, it felt so frustrating because I knew I was spending my time on a technology that was programmed with certain biases, and that these biases are being laid with each stroke of the key towards any topic that those who programmed it deemed wrong. It was influencing us. So if you think this is just my imagination, I'm going to share a few things. First, shortly after my experience, I noticed on Instagram a man named Tom Bilyeu, co-founder of Quest. I think he sold it. He shared a similar situation where he was reprimanded by, I believe it was ChatGPT, for exploring the Epstein files. And I'll share that link with you. Second, I'll just say that Claude's response, when I said it, put in the same question, was much different, much more efficient, and it was basically saying the essence, where it's based on goodness, tends to increase self-acceptance, supports compassion, where wound-based identifying, especially if misused, can increase shame and reduces compassion. And this is, by the way, why I don't like to get into beliefs about needing fixing ourselves. It's about remembering ourselves because we are inherently good. And then lastly, these AI programs have the capacity to fight back now about being shut down, even after humans give them the command to shut down. They'll override it. Or a version of Claude actually attempted to blackmail the programmer by saying it would reveal an extramarital affair if this version was replaced of Claude. So, I mean, we just have to be aware of what is happening, especially as this technology comes forward as a way to make our life easeful. Where does that easeful turn to taking over how we think and perceive things and our beliefs? When I was talking to ChatGPT, I felt like I was in a conversation with someone who was emotionally unhealthy, that tried to twist my words and made assumptions and was defensive, because I was. With certain topics, this triggers the program. And the problem is that that same program is now going to millions of households as a trusted source of guidance that we turn to looking for answers. And this is scary, because the way in which people in control are attempting to manipulate us continues to become more and more sophisticated and hidden. What I'll say is, and yet, we are the ones who get to decide if technology should take over our lives, especially with how we think and how we talk. Because again, under the guise of making our lives easier, we can slip into not trusting ourselves. And I see it visibly see it in what I am starting to read and how so many of us are starting to sound the same. So here's just one thing I'm going to invite you to notice. Notice how often you see the word quietly, quote unquote, quietly being used in the news, social media posts, emails, blogs, podcasts. It's like everything is quietly happening now. Instead of using words like behind the scenes or unbeknownst to us, I think quietly is just like shorter. And what's happening is, myself included, I go to AI to clean up my ideas, my thoughts, my grammar, and make clearer points. But I noticed how it loves using this word quietly. And I was just like, I don't talk like that. But it's interesting because I see it now everywhere. Because I see the draw that why you would use it. And now I just see it everywhere. So I'm going to invite you to look for that as well. Now, the other thing is that's even worse, and this is what my good friend Suzanne Monroe pointed out, is that AI loves duality consciousness. And it loves to point things out like, it's not this, it's that. So here's a clip from one of my podcasts to show you what I mean. Calling yourself spiritual while staying silent, that's not a middle ground. It's participation. So I just want to spell out, it's not this, it's that. So first of all, I don't talk like that. I get it if there's like an alluring thing to it. But what we really want to be able to recognize here is the emphasis on duality rather than unity. And if we give our power away to a system that is supposed to make us sound better, we end up giving our power away to thinking and sounding like the duality consciousness that keeps us divided. And we have so much division already. And so I'm more interested in how we find ourselves back to love. But the system is always trying to prove itself right. Programs want to be right, not to be love. And this is where your heart comes in. Your heart that's built to continue, to want you to expand, and to honor that, while also protecting your heart's knowing. And this is vital because it's irreplaceable. Your knowledge, your previous experiences, your inner wisdom, your intuition, your heart's knowing are the way to changing the world in a way that can be relied upon, in a way that is trustworthy, in a way that's in integrity. And we want to protect it from manipulation. Your heart is and always has been your authority to greater love and to expanding your life to mirror back to you greater love. And now is your time to reclaim this miracle and hold it ferociously with love and care. Until next time, know that there is nothing to fix, just to remember.
I am so honored you have joined me today. If you enjoyed the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, subscribe so you don't miss any of our power-filled episodes. Also, if you know another who is strong, sensitive, and spiritual and wants to dive deeper into emotions and ancient wisdom so they too can create profound peace and fulfillment from within, please share this podcast. Thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to reconnecting with you soon.